Hi everybody, it's Russ from My Hammers 11. I hope you're all safe and well. Obviously, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. So basically, you don't miss out any content we have coming out. Of course, every day we put a new video up, but sometimes we put 2-3 videos up in a day. So you don't want to miss any. So make sure you hit that bell. We've got some good guests, some great guests coming up, including today's guest. He's a busy man if you read his Twitter bio. You know, he's an author, he's a podcaster, an ex-journalist, a video PR exec. It's Jim Drury. Hi, Jim. How are you, man?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm coping in lockdown, just about.
Yeah. How is it? How are you surviving? I suppose you do a lot of your work from home on computers anyway. So
Well, actually, I've been mainly doing the podcast and teaching my daughter because I actually got put on furlough, so I've actually got more spare time than I usually have. Yeah,
yes, yeah. But I mean,
but
you
that's
know,
been okay. It's actually been like a sabbatical in a way.
yeah, exactly. I can see that, and obviously, you can. You know, most people thought they could be teachers when they're. You know, I can do that. You know, now you've got the chance to prove it as well. You know, it's lovely.
Yeah, exactly.
I know
Yeah,
it's like with. I mean, it's like with my mother-in-law. So she moved in. We moved her in sort of quite early on in the lockdown, and bless her, she's like a substitute teacher. You know, obviously dinner on the table and stuff like that. You make do, don't you, in these situations? You just make
yes.
do.
I've quite enjoyed it actually. I've enjoyed the time with my daughter, definitely. Yeah,
No,
it's been nice.
exactly.
But it's been weird. It's been strange not having any football to watch.
But it hasn't. It hasn't. I mean, I was getting quite used to not having football. Now it's on the horizon. I'm a bit. It's a bit weird. I'm a bit apprehensive about everything. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
I sort of, I was quite happy not having football and not thinking about what could potentially be.
Yeah.
And now it's sort of getting a bit real. And then when you start getting, so I've, started to get the all the Premier League directives in terms of music and what they're trying to do. You know, because obviously we
Yeah.
have to do test days, and it's getting a bit real now. I'm getting a bit nervous, but we'll see. You know,
Yeah.
at least, I mean, everyone sort of doing an interview the other day, and someone said it was a chore going to West Ham a little bit in the last couple of years, but it's a chore they would like to start again, and I get that. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and
I understand that.
so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But until then, we've still got 11 days until we kick off against Wolves. So
Yeah.
so we'll see. But it's
The
going to
one
be.
thing I don't miss, sorry, the one thing I don't miss is that feeling, and it really annoys me that I still have this after all these years. How West Ham losing the game over can actually ruin the weekend, can psychologically ruin the weekend. And I think to myself, why am I letting it get to me? Uh, I, I try and sort of think, oh, well, I don't know these 11 people. Why does it mean so much to me whether they beat another team of 11 people? But it does. It just
Yeah.
makes a huge difference to your weekend.
It's so true. And then, like, match of the day, it's like you just wouldn't even bother even looking at because it comes up on series link on Scott. Just delete it. Just delete it if we've lost. It's like don't even look at it. But
Yeah,
I mean, the good thing is, obviously, everything's all the games are going to come in so quick succession. So if God forbid we lose one, then you've only got a few days for the next one. So it's not too
that's
much
true. Yeah.
harping along. And
I
I think
do
it's going to
worry.
be.
The thing that worries me most about West Ham is the statistics showed that they ran the least, I think, of anyone before Moyes came in. I hope Moyes has had enough time to get them up to fitness, because it's the fitness that worries me. Everything else, ability-wise, they're fine, but I just don't know if he's had enough time to get them up to the requisite fitness.
Yeah, I mean, everything that, obviously the news that comes out of the club is obviously it seems that we've got a fully fit squad. When was the last time that happened? Upton Park, under Stadium? I can't remember. So that's a good thing. And I think, yeah, it seems, but it seems the atmosphere as well. It seems that there's this sort of real, and I've been talking to a lot of ex-players recently on the channel, and there was a real togetherness around sort of, obviously boys of 86, the 90s,
Yeah.
the Redknapp eras, and somewhat with the Allardyce eras, and they're real togetherness. And it seems that there's this sort of really nice buzz on the dressing room now. Getting Kevin Nolan in was an absolute masterstroke of Moyes'.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll see. I mean, it's going to be weird. I mean, the players, arguably some of the players who wouldn't necessarily perform well at the London Stadium because the fans are on their back, haven't got that hit now. And
that's true.
And also, I mean, I was chatting to, I'm not name dropping, but I was chatting to Kevin Keane, like you do, and I still can't believe it myself. But he made a good point that he thinks there's gonna be more teams from sort of the middle tier going to be dragged into the relegation because the Norwiches, West Ham, Bournemouth, Watfords are going to fancy going to Chelsea, Tottenham, because you haven't got the fans there. It's literally like it is a bit like a friendly feel to it, so to speak. So I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting, and you've seen that in the Bundesliga as well. So interesting results. The home advantage doesn't tend to work as much in terms of a percentage. And
that's right. They've only something like 25% of the games have been won by the home team.
Exactly.
Although of course West Ham have kind of lost their home advantage, haven't we, in the last few years, in a way? So it might benefit us, actually.
Yeah, that's what I think. So I'm very confident. I'm very confident. It's going to be interesting. I mean, the Premier League are doing loads of things to try and make it a bit more inclusive, it seems, and learning. I think lessons have been learned from Bundesliga in that, it's quite an empty stadium, isn't it? It's got that horrible feel. And I think they're trying to do stuff with coverings and stuff across all the stadiums to make it a bit more inclusive. And it's great. I mean, I was chatting to I think it was Mark Sandell, and he's having a Zoom party with all his mates who he sits around with at Upton Park at London Stadium, and they're going to watch the game, but watch it on Zoom as well, and then have the halftime pint and pie, and it's brilliant. It's so West Ham.
That's a really good idea. I've got to do that with my brother.
Yeah,
I hadn't thought about that. It's obvious, isn't it?
It is obvious when you think about it. And I said, look, I'll join in. I'll have it on in the background, because I'll be quite lonely there on my own. There's only going to be, I said, 300 people in the whole bloody stadium, and 22 of them are on the pitch. So yeah, I said, let me know, because it'd be like a youth team game. We used to have down the 23 games London Stadium, and about 200 turn up. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, we can talk about that. We need to talk about you, Jim, and your memories of West Ham, and obviously your Hammers 11. So in terms of you, Jim, I mean, the first question I ask most people now is, why West Ham? How did it start for you?
Well, my dad was already taking my brother to West Ham. My dad he'd been going since the 50s. He used to cycle to the ground from Barking. Sometimes he would get on the same bus as Bobby Moore to the matches. Another thing was my granddad on my mum's side, who was never into football. He was a rugby man. But for some reason, he bunked into the 1923 Cup final, which I've never understood why. He died before I had the chance to ask him about that. There was never any choice of who was going to support. And so Dad took me along when I was about 6 to playing Newcastle at home, 1979. We won 5-0, and this is amazing. This is where I want to come every week.
Completed it, and 5-0 first game. That ain't bad. Didn't probably go like that from then up much.
No.
Exactly.
Well, that's it. I mean, the first 2 years of going, we'd won the FA Cup, and I managed to get a ticket for the game. I went to the Cup final, went to the League Cup final, and I thought, this is going to be great. We're going to be doing this every year, and we've won nothing since. But it's all part of it, isn't it?
The Intertoto Cup in 1990. Don't forget about the Intertoto Cup.
Yes,
European glory, and and even for me, that's the only trophy we've ever won, really. But no, I know what you mean. And then obviously since then, since mid 70s onwards, there must be certain sort of games or West Ham experiences throughout that sort of stick in your mind. What would just pick a couple? What would they be, man?
Well, the getting promoted against Cambridge '93, that was a great one. That was a big. We were still allowed to go on the pitch at the end after that in those days.
Yeah,
I remember going up to Anfield. For some reason, I went to Anfield on my own when I was 17. It was on a Monday night, and saw us get relegated. Lost 5-1 up there, and that was horrendous actually, because it was about a month after Heysel, and there were too many people packed into the ground. You couldn't stand up. So that's not a very nice memory.
No.
But lots of nice memories being with my dad and my brother and my nephews. The Cambridge game would be a classic one.
Yeah.
Obviously, all the playoff finals in recent years, they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Especially the one at Wembley, and then the FA Cup final, which we were so close to winning. Games like those.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you're right.
and
You're
of
right.
course the last one, Upton Park as well.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I mean, you know, what's in terms of the playoffs? Obviously, we had like, you know, we're quite experienced at playoffs now. I think, you know, we hopefully won't have any more experience anymore.
Yeah,
But you know, I mean, we talking to lots of people about sort of Cardiff and Wembley, you know, and I was always a fan. I'll be honest, I was always a fan of Cardiff. I didn't.
yeah, I like Cardiff. Yeah.
The Wembley one was great. Um, part as me was obviously my daughter was due that day, so I'd always have that in my memory because it was just like, you know, on tenterhooks for two reasons. But but I just preferred Cardiff. I just thought Cardiff had that sort of, you know, how people talk about London Stadium now in that you lost that atmosphere of Green Street
Yeah,
and that's what I think you lose from Wembley to Cardiff, because it was like it was bang in the middle of the city and it was an
yeah. It
amazing
was a
time.
carnival, wasn't
It
it?
was brilliant. I used to love Cardiff, and obviously we went 3 years running, didn't we?
Oh yeah.
And I had the same car park space 3 years in a row because it was like
Ah,
say literally almost exactly the same car park space. But no, I used to love Cardiff. It was good fun. As you said, hopefully we won't have many more, maybe more FA Cup finals rather than
yeah.
playoff finals.
Well, actually, the one other game I would mention, because I always wanted to see us beat Tottenham at Wembley, and so to get to I don't go to many away games, but I got a ticket for the League Cup one where we came back from 2 down and won
Yeah,
3-2, and brilliant to see us beat them at Wembley. It
yeah.
was brilliant.
Yeah. Frustrating. I think I had a press ticket for the Tottenham game. That was going to be like, it would have been like 2 weeks. Anyway, it's small comparisons compared to what the world's gone through, really,
Oh,
isn't
that's
it?
true. Yeah, yeah.
So it just is what it is. What it is. But so, I mean, you know, you've had I mean, from sort of the mid-70s onwards, you've had quite an array of players who have come and gone. Some have come back as well. Some have come
Yeah,
back as managers as well. We try and do this Hammers 11 thing, and as I said, it's sort of everyone's loving it. It's quite funny. Some people really sort of, you know, agonize over it, which is quite
yeah.
sweet. And
I agonised. I've seen a couple of people's. I saw their choices and thought, blimey, I would never have chosen
yeah,
that. But that's what it's all about. Everyone's
exactly, and
got their own.
it's a generational thing as well, which I think is really sweet as well. You know, but saying that you have to have been alive to have seen them play puts a massive caveat on a lot of
Yeah.
people because, yeah,
Yes.
if I was picking my 11, my dream 11, yeah, Bobby Moore would be in it, but I never
Yeah.
saw him play,
Yeah.
so I know of the legend,
No.
and part of this is almost a learning process for me as well because I'm learning all these stories about older players and, you know, people like Sissons and Charles and John Charles, not Gary Charles, and, you know, and Charles and you know, it's like, you know, when you talk about people not understanding that, I mean, I never knew John Chart, the story, so I go
Yeah.
back and it's
Yeah.
really been this sort of like cathartic, sort of like, you know, really really amazing. So in terms of your team, Jim,
Yeah.
who would be between the sticks? Who would be your number one?
There's no question. It's Phil Parkes,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, out of the keepers who followed him, McCloskey was great. Um, I did. I quite liked Robert Green. I like Fabianski. Fabianski does something that Parkes used to do, which is what I like in a goalkeeper. He's commanding, and he comes out and he catches the ball. He doesn't come
Yes.
out flat. I, I, I suppose I'm a bit old-fashioned in that sense. When a cross comes in, I want to see if the goalkeeper can catch it, he should catch it.
Yeah.
If he has to punch it, that's fine. But too many goalies come out and punch it or flap it when they don't need to do it. Parkes was really totally commanding. Obviously, he was a great shot stopper, but
Yeah.
he was just, yeah, you knew he wasn't going to be intimidated by anyone. The
Mm.
back four trusted him. Can't think of many mistakes he made,
No.
and he was very unlucky not to have had more than one England cap because he was
Yeah.
unlucky to be around at the same time as Clements and Shilton. And I look at some of the England goalkeepers who followed,
Yeah.
but I think they weren't a patch on Phil Parkes.
No. No, I agree. And I think you're right. I think goalkeepers for West Ham, we haven't done too badly compared to other things. So, you know, I mean, sometimes you've got and sometimes they're looking at stuff and it's a bit different and you know, left backs and full backs and stuff. But for the goalkeepers, they've been all right, I think. We've been all
Yeah,
right. We've been quite
generally speaking,
fortunate.
we've had a couple of
Yeah, we had
strange one.
a couple of weird ones, but yeah, it sounds good. Let's put Parksy in. Let's go for left back then. Jim, who have we got left back, man?
Well, it would be Julian
Yeah,
Dix, who was a magnificent player, very underrated outside of West Ham
I agree.
because people only ever saw this thuggish image. I mean, obviously, he was a very hard, tough tackler, didn't take any prisoners, but he also had a very sweet left foot. He could bring a ball down on his instep from 80 yards. Very set up tons of goals. Obviously, a brilliant penalty taker. And a theme that will run through my team is I want to have players who are committed. I think there's a bit of a myth about West Ham fans, which is, oh, we just want to see good football and that's it. Actually, I think we want to see people who are committed, and there were not many people, certainly in that era that he played, who were as committed as Julian Dix.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just tenacious, wasn't he? And he was just, and I mean, I obviously it was more the second stint that I remember more, just from my career of a fan, and just when he had and he just like had a ripped shirt, he had a shaven head, he had his, and he just looked. Thing is, he looked like he just come off a pub team, didn't he? Really realistic, he looked like a thug.
He did. Yeah.
But as you said, he had the sweetest foot, and that's what is quite nice, because obviously the fact we have one perspective, and talking to the ex-players, they obviously, I mean, Julian's been in all of theirs, but it's the story, it's the reverse, and it's what they. And if I always think, it's always when it comes to, I mean, in case Kate, you might have put them in your team, or something, but someone like Devonshire, for example, the boys of '86, to a man, always talk about him, and that to me means not so much more, but is an equal value to the fans, because obviously it's your peers, it's people you're working with, isn't it? But Dix, and so
one thing I would say about Dix as well was, I remember when he left to go to Liverpool, and that season, it was the time West Ham fans got a lot of criticism over the comeback of Paul Ince. First time he played, and he got booed all the way through. People were saying, "Oh, it's just because he's gone to a better club." And I remember thinking, "No, I'm sorry, this is not right." I remember I wrote a letter to When Saturday Comes, which they printed, which was basically saying, "You wait till April when Julian comes back from Liverpool, playing for Liverpool," and he got a hero's reception, and it was because of what he was like on the pitch.
And he left the right way, isn't it? I mean, it is, you're right, he left the right way. It was, I think it was John Black, I think he was the first one to pick Paul Ince for his 11, and it was the right way to leave. And as you said, there's players, Rio when he came back, Carlos Tevez. I mean, Carlos Tevez reinvented that, really playing for the opposition. He didn't do that when he was scoring for us, but when he played for Man United, he was doing that, and he resurrected that. But,
that was brilliant.
But Julian, he was such a legend, wasn't he? And obviously came back and was assistant coach, with Slav, and doing a great job at West Brom as well. So, and even when they came back, for the cup, they had a massive applause, and they would do any time they turned up. I agree. Right, okay. Yeah. Julian is in. Let's go right back. Then Jim.
For me, again, it's a very easy one. Ray Stewart, who was a fantastically strong defender. I was really interested. I saw an interview on. He was being interviewed as part of Canning Town Lens series, and he said something which I didn't realise. Ray Stewart said he'd spent his whole time. He would prefer to play centre half. I knew I'd seen him play centre half, but I didn't realise actually he would have preferred that, because he was such a great fullback.
Yeah,
he was great at bombing forward. He was a John Lyall player, so he could play the ball on the floor. And of course, some of those penalties, I mean, nerves of steel or what, really, to score so many absolutely crucial penalties in the last minute of games. Amazing.
Yeah, no, totally. And and again, you're right. And he was a committed hammer, and he still is. He's an adopted Cockney, and there's a few of them out there, and I would always love to have seen them both, Julian and Ray, on the pitch, and a penalty was coming. And then the time I can imagine almost like a Di Canio Lampard Bradford City sort of argument each time. It'd be quite funny, and I would love to know who's going to win that battle. Both of them in their prime would have been awesome. Right, we'll put Tonka in. Let's go centre backs in. Jimmy, we got centre backs, you know?
I'm gonna have Billy Bonds first.
Yeah.
He has to be in there. Awesome player. And talk about Mr. Commitment.
Yeah.
Another one who was a better player than probably gets credit for technically.
Yeah.
He was actually quite skillful, and people just see this buccaneering, ball-winning player, but actually he was more skillful than that. I didn't think he was the best of managers, but and it was awful the way he left.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great that he did have that moment last year, Newcastle game, when he came on and people really showed what they thought of him, and he was in tears clearly. And I thought he really deserved that. But he was just a brilliant player. You knew you had more of a chance when he was on the pitch.
Yeah, no, totally. And as you said, it was right to do that, Newcastle, to do the stand, because for the unofficiated fans, the less experienced fans, I call them, the younger ones, Billy Bonds they don't know who Billy Bonds is. They hear, and again, that's now going to be part of the fabric in the same way that Bobby Moore and Trevor Brooking is. It'd be interesting to see what we do with the last one, to be honest. But but then you've got maybe Mark Noble. Who knows? Then you've got sort of when the kids then become the adults and they bring their kids will be asking them who Billy Bonds was, in the same ilk as who Bobby Moore and Trevor Brooking were. And that's right. That's right, because of what they did for the club. I think, you can see how much the man who shows no emotion, really. Even when, as I said, someone else, even when we got promoted at that Cambridge game, he wasn't crying. He was like on top going, he wasn't like, there was no emotion really. He's just been promoted.
No, you're absolutely right.
But he was absolutely crying his eyes out. And there was lots of middle-aged men around that stadium at the time who also were crying their eyes out, and it was very emotional. But Bonzo, good shout, Jim. Who's he going to partner in the middle then, mate, in the centre backs?
We've had some good centre halves over the years, and there are people like Rio Ferdinand, great players. But for me, it would be Alvin Martin, another member of the 1980 Cup Finals, Cup winning side, who played for us for 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
Another footballing centre half, very good on the floor. Would have had more England caps if it wasn't for Terry Butcher. The only thing he didn't have probably was a bit of pace, but a real leader on the pitch. Again, someone 100% trying all the time. Alvin would be in there for me, definitely. I will have a couple of more modern players eventually.
No, I don't care. It's your 11. Doesn't care who you have, man. It's like he's another adopted Cockney, isn't he? I mean, he still lives around the area.
Yeah.
And he just got it. And 19 years or whatever is phenomenal. And he was the one who was the presenter for Billy's stand. So again, it sort of goes along with that as well, in terms of being a real club man. And as you said, he was integral. And I think you're right. I think it was Tim Crane was talking about how the guys who have won FA Cup, there's not that many West Ham players who have won an FA Cup medal who are alive, obviously in the world, so to speak, very small percent. And it's about treasuring them people. And I think that the idea of this whole channel is to document the people who meant a lot to to fans and stuff. And someone like Alvin, clearly coming through most 11s, but he would do naturally. Great, that is a solid back four, that's for sure. I tell you, wouldn't fancy if I was across the front line for the opposition. Wouldn't fancy that at all. Right, let's go for. And again, you're right. I mean, you got someone like Parksy he should have got a lot more England caps than he did. Julian, famously, obviously. Again, Pierce, Lasso, he had like a lot of, particularly that 96. And again, hindsight, he would have he would have been one of the penalty takers, wouldn't he?
He'd been straight up there.
Hindsight's a great thing, because obviously we're reliving it on ITV and stuff, wouldn't you? So Bonzo, again, no England caps. Martin could have got more. Obviously Ray was Scottish, but doesn't matter. Okay, we still can't understand what you're saying anyway. Right, okay, we'll go midfield. Let's go left midfield. Who have we got left midfield?
Yeah.
Jim?
Well, seeing how the team is lining up so far, you won't be surprised to know that Alan Devonshire is in there. He was an absolute magician.
Yeah.
How he could play like that on the pitches that he was playing. I mean, he was
exactly,
like a 9.5 stone or something, and he used to glide across those like bogs, basically.
Yeah.
About October onwards, it was just a bog. And I remember over near where the tunnel is, it was a slight slope, so it used to be even muddier over that side. And he was just a magician. Again, another one. It makes me sound incredibly biased, but another one who should have got more England caps.
He should have,
yeah. And you look at if you look at him compared to some of the people who've played in that position since, but he was outstanding, and he could drip, and he also had that really interesting thing that happened to him after that disgusting tackle on him against Wigan, which I still remember. Still, Graham Barrow was the person who did it. I'll never forgive him. He had to come back and completely change his style of play because he used to go down the byline and cut inside. No, sorry, he had to start cutting inside because he couldn't go and beat the last man anymore. And he completely changed his game. Yeah. And in that 85-86 season, he was awesome. Yeah. We almost won the league because of him.
Yeah, no, he was, and you're right. And you said it before. If you're looking at West Ham transfers ever made, he must be the greatest transfer ever at West Ham. And I would say, if anyone else could say another transfer in terms of money to ratio, there's not many out. Yeah, $5,000. Ridiculous. Yeah. In today's money, ridiculous.
I mean, the only player I can think of who had a similar amount of ability in that position would be Payet. But I'd never have. You see, I want to have a team that you can rely on, and I'd never put someone like Payet in my team because for obvious reasons.
He'd leave after.
Can't rely on someone like that.
Yeah,
down tools.
Exactly. 18 months, he'll be gone. But again, when people talk about Payet and they talk about how he left, he joined us exactly the same way as he left us. For Marseille.
Yeah, that's very true.
And Marseille welcomed him back. And Marseille welcomed him back as well. So, obviously there was rumblings, weren't there? Like of him potentially coming back, and it was like, nah. But he's He was. I mean, for the modern day player, modern day fan, rather, so to speak, he was probably the best. He's the best player technically I've seen.
He was that year, that last year of the Bowling. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was, and the stars just aligned for that season. So that season was
they really
nice.
Did.
That was amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. It was the perfect season to put us up there because it wasn't a relegation dogfight. Obviously, we went off the boil a little bit. Obviously we lost at Wigan, the Wigan game, wasn't it, like 4-0 or something like that, and then we sort of came back mesmerically at that Man United game, and that was just a microcosm of West Ham. When it really mattered, they pulled it out, and it was a great day. Right, okay, we'll put Dev on the left. Let's go for the right midfield. Who are we going for the right wing then?
Right midfield, I'm going to have a player who's playing now, actually. Oh. I'm going to put Michael Antonio in there. Michael Antonio. Sorry? My daughter's shouting from downstairs. I'm not putting Masuaku in that team. No way. But Michael Antonio, who I think he's a fantastic another one who puts in his shift. Yeah. And he went through a spell where he really wasn't doing it. And then it turned out afterwards he'd been rushed back from injury. In typical West Ham way, rush him back rather than give someone time to recover. Yeah. And he kept getting injured again, having these niggles. I remember thinking, what's wrong with him? And then when he said, I finally had the proper break, and he's been this season one of the few positive features.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think he scares defenders. He's got pace. When you see him running at players, you can see the fear in their eyes, can't you?
It's
not necessarily the most technically accomplished, but he's got everything else.
Yeah, He's just a unit, isn't he? He's just a complete unit. You know, he's the truest sense. You know, I mean, and he's part of a breed that doesn't. We don't have a lot of. I don't think we. You know, occasionally we'll get an absolutely lightning quick player. You know, like Matty Etherington or Matty Rush. Like years ago, Matty Rush was quick, and you know, and Sinks as well, Trevor Sinclair. And they were like so quick, but Antonio just has the bulk, doesn't he, as well? You know, he is rapidly. I would love to know what his 100-meter time is, you know, but well, he could do it in the close season. Oh, not now because we're not having the athletics track up, but he gets times. But I mean, you know, he's frightening. Absolutely, when he's got that bit between his teeth, he's unstoppable. He is literally unstoppable in terms of physically so domineering. That's a great shout. I like that.
You mentioned Sinclair. He would if you'd asked me this 6 months ago, I'd have had him in my team.
Really, but Antonio's just doing it.
Taking the edge.
No, I agree. Okay, we'll put Antonio in. Let's go midfield then, Jim. Who's your first midfielder, centre midfielder?
Okay, the defensive midfielder. I'm going to, and he perhaps wouldn't be classified completely as a defensive midfielder, but I would put Scott Parker in there.
Yeah,
who I think was outstanding. You know, football has changed so much from the times when I started going. It makes me sound like a terrible old man. But where you used to expect that everyone would be 100% committed at all times, they wouldn't be distracted by anything else. And Parker used to really put himself on the line. And the fact that he went to Tottenham afterwards, I never minded that because that was his team. And he had put effort in that season we went relegated and pretty much nobody else had, apart from Mark Noble. And I just think he was a great player. Yeah. There's a famous occasion at West Brom where he took the half-time team talk and because Abraham Grant was probably just sitting around not doing very much. And it was very sad to see him go.
Yeah.
I'd love to find a place for Mark Noble in this team because I love Mark Noble, but he's not going to make it. But,
Spoiler for the next centre midfielder. It's not Mark Noble. All right, I'll put Scotty P in. Yeah, I totally agree, and I don't think Scott gets the credit for those 3 seasons as much as he should deserve because you're right. There were some times where literally he'd be sat there, and not sat there, he'd be standing there, and it's almost like he's gone. I'll do it myself then. And literally, like, you know, pulled his socks up and then would literally be everywhere. He was great. And
I remember there being a couple of match reports about that game, that West Brom game, and he was referred to as the West Ham captain, Scott Parker, and the actual captain was Matthew Upson.
Yeah.
But where was he that season, really?
Yeah. True. No, Scotty P. And 3 times Hammer of the Year in succession. That doesn't happen very often either.
No,
and obviously
exactly.
Footballer's Writer, Player of the Season we went down, I think, as well. And again, when's that ever happened as well? Yeah. All right, we'll put Scotty in. And who's Scotty going to partner in the midfield then, Jim?
Well, it's going to be another 1980 player. It's going to be Trevor Brooking.
Yeah.
Trevor, who, brilliant player. I saw him for 5 years. And he was my first real football hero. Just another one, a bit like Dev, who could play on any surface. He was no shrinking violet. Actually, he could stand up for himself. But just a brilliant, elegant player. And he had that technique that people often talk about, where he used to let the ball run past him and run onto it. Just a great player. And the thing is, if he probably played in this age for West Ham, someone would have come in and nabbed it. I know it was sort of unfair that people were almost made to stay at clubs in a way. Before the days of Bosman, but it meant that you had real loyalty from someone like him who stayed down in the 2nd division for 3 years. Be unheard of now, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
an England player.
I mean, a player staying with a club for more than 3 years is very unheard of nowadays. Let alone everything else. So, and obviously, again, you know, you're saying about the bogs that Devonshire played. You know, the bogs obviously that Brooking played, and how silky he was ahead of his time. You know, both them two at London Stadium on the bowling green would be amazing, amazing to see. Because I don't think, me particularly, I never appreciated, obviously the quality of the pitches, how heavy the boots were, the ball, and all that stuff. Now everything's so light and fluffy, but these guys was doing it with those sort of restrictions, so to speak, in terms of and they were still mesmeric, and still highly regarded, and it's in your team, as a real 80s team thread through there as well. Right, okay, we'll put Trev in, Sir Trev. Let's go up front. Who we got up front then, Jim?
This was the hardest of all.
Yeah.
To pick two strikers, because there are so many. It keeps changing, but I'm going to stick with what I said this morning. I'd like to. I'll tell you, I've got Tony Cottee as my first striker.
Yeah.
Just because I think he's the best finisher I've seen.
Yeah.
Pop Robson was great. I didn't see him for very long, but Cottee was just a brilliant finisher who you knew if the ball got in the 6-yard box, he would get the ball and he'd score. He did score the odd pile driver as well, but he would get in and score the unglamorous goals. And I don't think there's been anyone since then who's been as good a goal scorer.
No, I agree. Totally.
And I think Redknapp let go of him too soon the second time round as well. Because he went on to play for Leicester for 3 or 4 years after that.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think it was. It was. Yeah, I mean, you look at who we've had since, striker-wise or forward-wise, not even striker-wise, and you're right. We haven't had a natural that sort of fox in the box, which he became. I mean, the only one I can ever think of in similar ilk would be Chicharito, because he had that sort of small, wouldn't necessarily. All of his goals were in the 16-yard box, but unfortunately. Didn't work out. He was a wrong player in the wrong right player in the wrong formation rather. So he could have been that sort of. That's why I was excited when he came, because I thought he would have been our modern day Cottee, modern day, but sort of it's the 80s. But well, I'll put TC in, and who's he going to partner up front then, Jim?
He's going to partner David Cross. I was going to have Frank McAvenny because he was a massive hero of mine. Yeah. And then you've got Di Canio. How am I leaving Di Canio out? But again, I'm going to go for. I think David Cross would work well in that team. Yeah. And I don't think Di Canio would work well in a team that had Devonshire and Brookie. I think you can't have 3 players who are all that good on the ball. Yeah. I don't think it would work. And David Cross was a terrific striker. He was, people who don't, generation below don't know him. He's like a fully fit and fully committed Andy Carroll. Yeah. And he was good on the floor as well. Yeah. No, he's a great lad. He's a great lad. We've had him on the channel. He's been brilliant. He's absolutely phenomenal. And he's such a lovely guy and so humble. He's like Bonzo, they're so humble. It seems that whole generation, the 80s, they have time for everyone, and they all seem to be mates, and they all seem to still knock about with each other and phone each other up and meet, and it just seems that generation. Then probably Cross is a good shout. He's a great shout. I'm a big fan of his and again, I wasn't around to see David Cross play, and so I've been going back and watching the videos and the end season reviews and things like that, and you get this newfound appreciation for players you never really heard of. I knew of David Cross, but I didn't know of him, if that makes sense. I knew he was a FA Cup winner. He scored 99 goals to the club, but I didn't see any of the goals, So it was great to go back. And as you said, that's I can see how you're right. Cross would fit nicely in that team, that's for sure. And you've got a nice blend of pace, skill, workhorses, I call them. And if it does turn a bit nasty, you've got some boys there to sort it all out as well. It's true. It's true. It's a consideration. Exactly. Jim, man, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you. Thank you so much, and I appreciate the. It's a pleasure to be asked.
No, absolutely no. Thank you so much, Jim. It's lovely, and yeah, as I said, it's a project which started off as a little acorn, and it's just or a snowball, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. So it's absolutely great having you on, and obviously thanks everyone for watching. And obviously all the continual support you give everyone gives the channel, like, share, subscribe. Drop me a message if you want to come on the channel or whatever. We're trying to get as many people as possible while we can before everyone goes back to work as well properly. And until next time, from me and Jim, take care, everybody.